Why not respect freedom of everybody if you say you are a Democrat? If you say you are a Democrat, why don't you respect the freedom of everybody? How can you say you are a Democrat and yet you want other people to be slaves? Why do you not seek to influence people by your good example instead of manipulation, lectures, and threats? The oppressors miscalculate when they use their temporary advantage in science and technology to think that they can use that to indefinitely oppress other people. The oppressed will learn, catch up, and defeat the oppressor.
Yoweri Museveni is a different species when it comes to African leaders, even though many conclude he's autocratic, a dictator, and somehow a Western puppet. One thing you can't take away from him is his bravery when it comes to addressing the Western countries. He has once again thrown a heavy shot at the Western countries for using their power to oppress vulnerable countries. I want us to watch this video. I will be back.
By 1900, the whole of Africa, except for Ethiopia, had been colonized. This direct colonization of the whole of the African continent was the culmination of 400 years of the plunder of Africa by the evil imperialist forces in the form of slave trade and the genocidal wars that went with it, the newly discovered Americas, Asia, China, and the Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, and so on, had been similarly aggressed, colonized, semi-colonized, like in the case of China, and plundered. Africa's capitulation, Africa's surrender, had been in part on account of our egocentric chiefs and kings, who out of selfishness could not unite us to fight these evil people. The second generation of the African freedom fighters were people like Mzee Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, Mwalimu Nyerere of Tanzania, Nelson Mandela of South Africa, etc., who emerged in the 1940s. When we therefore came on the scene in the 1960s, we were generation 3 of the anti-colonial fighters. We seriously studied the interplay of forces that had ultimately led Africa in such a calamity. In those studies, we used the instrument of political economy, which is a study that helps us to discover the fundamental laws that govern the motion of society from one social system to another. As bullies, the Europeans used their progress in technology of shipbuilding and the use of gunpowder to conquer Africa, the Americas, Asia, and the Pacific. European looting of the rest of humanity through slavery, imperialism, colonialism, semi-colonialism, conquest, and extermination of the indigenous people in some cases went on for 500 years. Instead of humanity celebrating the scientific advances in shipbuilding, the wider use of gunpowder, which had been discovered by the Chinese around 800 BC, the wider use of quinine against malaria that the Spanish had learned from the indigenous Indians of the Americas, the printing press, the steam engine, and all the other inventions, we had to spend 500 years in anti-colonial wars to expel the evil parasites. In the case of Africa, it is only in 1994 that the indigenous people of South Africa regained control of their country. So we had to spend 500 years dealing with idiotic schemes by greedy people. The oppressors miscalculate when they use their temporary advantage in science and technology to think that they can use that to indefinitely oppress other people. The oppressed will learn, catch up, and defeat the oppressor. That is why empires always all collapse. All empires always collapse. The idea of empires is an evil idea. I don't want to impose my beliefs on you, but as a Christian, in the book of the Acts of Apostles, it says that empires are evil. You go and read the book of the Acts of Apostles. St. Paul describes empires as evil. People are supposed to be free, not to be conquered by empires. We should only have free associations of nations, people of common or shared origin, interacting for mutual advantage with the peoples of the world. Therefore, we, the resistance fighters of Uganda, are flabbergasted and look down with contempt at the philosophical, ideological, and strategic shallowness of some of the actors of the world. Why not respect freedom of everybody if you say you are a Democrat? If you say you are a Democrat, why don't you respect the freedom of everybody? How can you say you are a Democrat and yet you want other people to be slaves? Why do you not seek influence? Why do you not seek to influence people by your good example instead of manipulation, lectures, and threats? Again, in the book of Matthew, it says, "Let your light so shine before men that they see your good deeds and praise your Father who is in heaven." Influence people by example, not by threats and manipulations. Chauvinists of race, religion, tribe, or gender should stop wasting our time and opportunities with their shallow schemes. Action will inevitably invite counteraction. Oppression will invite resistance. That is why we, the resistance fighters of Uganda, only fight just wars. We abhor unjust wars. The promoters of unjust wars lose most of the time. These are wars of imperialism, conquest, domination, etc. In the 500 years of European aggression against Africa, it was only from 1912, when the African National Congress was founded in South Africa, that modern freedom fighters came forward to lead the African resistance, the traditional, illiterate African chiefs having failed to defend our sovereignty, except for Menelik of Ethiopia, who defeated the Italian aggressors in 1896. It took the modern African resistance fighters only 82 years to clear the whole of Africa of these invaders, with South Africa being the last to get freedom in 1994. In that 82 years, you had the Mau Mau in Kenya, the resistance wars in Algeria, Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, etc. We won everywhere. Our African brothers in all these wars won. But after losing a lot of time, why had the imperialists thought of dominating us in the first place? Therefore, the non-aligned movement was correct. The illogical polarization of the 1940s, 1950s, 60s, 70s, between the capitalists and communists was wrong. Why should new ideas cause tension? This was the mistake of people like Metternich of Austria-Hungary, who thought that the new ideas of capitalism that were challenging the feudal order in Europe could be blocked by war. The Austro-Hungarian Empire ended up disappearing from the face of the earth, and capitalism did not stop spreading. Our stand is that the world should concentrate on the common human problems: prosperity through trade, and that's why I'm very happy to see you here. When you are outside there, you may get stereotypes about Africa, that Africa, they have no food, they are starving. Here we are dying from food. We have so much food here. So those images which you see about some bad situations, don't think they represent the whole of Africa. Africa has got everything. Here we have everything. What we need from other people are markets and investments. But we shall not only sell to you, we shall also buy from you. We are not like others who want only to sell to others but not buy from them. So I'm very glad to have this big presence of people from the world so that we can interact with you. Our stand is that the world should concentrate on the common human problems: prosperity through trade, the advance of science and technology to deal with human problems, the environment, crime, and terrorism. The future is bright if we act right. These are indeed the Bandung principles of: one, respect for fundamental human rights and for the purposes of the principles of the Charter of the United Nations; respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations; recognition of the equality of all races and of equality of all nations, large and small; abstention from intervention or interference in the internal affairs of another country; respect for the right of each nation to defend itself singly or collectively in conformity with the Charter of the United Nations; abstention from the use of arrangements of collective defense to serve the particular interests of any of the big powers; abstention by any country from exerting pressure on other countries; 7, refraining from acts of threats, of aggression, or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any country; settlement of all international disputes by peaceful means, such as negotiation, conciliation, arbitration, or judicial settlement, as well as other peaceful means of the parties' own choice in conformity with the Charter of the United Nations. Promotion of mutual interests and cooperation, and respect for justice and international obligation. It is on these principles that the NAM was founded. We, the resistance fighters of Uganda, can testify that by synthesizing the package of ideas have got very good results. Using the ideas of the free market, we use the free market principles. Like this hotel is a joint venture between the government and the private sector. In some cases, the government can have some parastatals, but in most of the cases, we encourage the private sector. So we use the ideas of the free market combined with the ideas of selective state intervention in the economy in some sectors like banking, energy, transport, etc., and also bring back some aspects of the pre-capitalist institutions, such as the reformed cultural institutions of Uganda. Uganda, although starting from a very low base, has had growth rates of 6.2% per annum for the last 37 years. We are therefore not impressed and cannot be part of the morbid, I want the word morbid, sickly, of the morbid bigotry of uni-ideological thinking of this or that type. When somebody says, this is the only correct idea, this is the only correct idea. If you don't believe in this, I will attack you. Really? The universe has been here for the last 30 billion years. This earth has been here for 30 billion years. The human society has been here for the last 4.5 million years. Now you come, within 20 years, you think what you think is the only correct thing. You must be sick. You therefore should not have the audacity to impose on the society you live in, let alone the world, your narrow, uni-ideological orientation. Here in Uganda, we rejected the concept of uni-ideological positions. Our movement started as a multi-ideological political force. We had capitalists, we had socialists, we had Marxists, we had feudalists. They're all. That's why we call our movement, not party. Because a party is uni-ideological. Communist party, capitalist party, those are uni-ideological. Our force is multi-ideological, because that's what fits our society. In conclusion, the strength of the non-aligned movement should be used to exercise considerable influence, particularly at the UN, for the effective transformative process for a better common future. In the negotiations for the Pact of the Future, the outcome document of the upcoming United Nations Summit of the Future, to be held in New York in September 2024, we should clearly define priorities that favor developing countries by maintaining unity, solidarity, and collective coordination among our member states in line with the Bandung principles. I assure you all that my team, led by the permanent representative in New York, has my full support to chair the coordinating bureau of the Land-Aligned Movement. I thank you, and I welcome you all to Uganda. Thank you very much.
So that was Yoweri Museveni, the president of Uganda. He is, how should I put it? He's one of the bravest leader in Africa at the moment. Even though he has been facing sanctions upon sanctions from most of the Western countries, he still stands his ground to criticize the Western countries and point to them that things that has happened in this world, especially slavery in Africa and all other wars that has happened in other parts of the world, is being caused by the Western countries. Somewhere last year, he signed the anti-LGBT bill into law in Uganda, and US and other Western countries has been flooding them with sanctions. They have been flooding Uganda with sanctions. They have been restricting their ministers of states from traveling to most of the Western countries. But still, this man don't really care about all these sanctions, and he keep on poking them about things they are doing wrong. It seems he's not going to stop soon, and he's going to keep on pushing this ideologies into Africa. And a lot of, I think, if you listen to him, you realize he's always trying to go back to history and later compared what has happened to what is happening today. And you realize he has facts. He has been in power for a very long time, so he understands African politics and international politics. He understands the manipulations that goes on in the world politics. As you listen to him, I know you have learned maybe one or two things from whatever he said, but most of them I agree with him, because this world is not that plain like how we see things. There are a whole lot of things, manipulations, controls, using power to suppress people and oppress people. A lot of things are happening, so it's not just as it seems. Somebody will say those who have third eye are the only ones that will understand and see what is happening. A lot of things are happening, but it takes few people to understand exactly what is happening in this world. Please, you can go to my description box and click on the Telegram link and join us on Telegram. What do we do there? We talked about the well-being of Africa. Other than that, if today is also your first time visiting this channel, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification button so that anytime I upload any great content, you will be notified. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook through I am the Graft handle. Till we meet again, I'll tell you thanks for watching.